In this demonstration, we are going to see how to set up an EC2 instance, all right, on the AWS platform. So you would have logged on to your AWS dashboard and you should be logged in as your IAM user and not your root user. All right. So the power user one here is the IAM user account that I am using, and I have logged on to the Northern Virginia region. I'm going to do most of my tasks I'll be performing on the Northern Virginia region. The reason that I do that is because AWS, whenever they're coming up with a new service, they always launch that service in Northern Virginia. So I get to, work on the latest offerings from AWS. So that's the reason I choose Northern Virginia all the time. All right. So now to launch the Linux instance, the service that we are going to use is called as the EC2. And EC2 in expansion is Elastic Compute Cloud, so ECC. So that's why it is mentioned as EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. All right, let's click on the EC2 here. So that is one option. Or you can go and click on the services here. And once you click on the services, you can see the list of all the service offerings from AWS. Here on your left, one of the most extensive set of services offered by a cloud platform, and that is the reason AWS is always the leader on the cloud computing world. All right. So here, if you go under compute, we should be seeing the EC2 here. All right. So click on EC2, and I'm going to be brought back to the same dashboard. So on this dashboard, I'm getting a glimpse of all the services. So the service health, it says the service is operating normally. So we have 6 availability zones, all right, within the Northern Virginia region. So that's one of the most extensive set of availability zones there. And you see the number of instances which are running, and the number of volumes, key pairs. I have 2 key pairs already. So there are 2 security groups, elastic IPs, load balancers, snapshots. So whatever is there is giving us a glimpse here. All right. And on your left, you can see most of them again. All right. So the instances, instance types, launch templates. So we will be looking into all this services, all the list of these services one by one. All right. So for the demonstration, let's go ahead and create a EC2 instance, a Linux instance here. So there are many ways I can do that. One is I can go and click on launch instance here, or I can go and click on the instances running, and I can see all the instances which are running there, and I get an option to launch from here also. So there are many places where AWS is giving us to go and access the services, so get familiarized with them, please. Right, let me go and click on launch instance now. Very well. So now I'm at stage 1, which is to choose an Amazon machine image. So what is the Amazon machine image? This is the image of the operating system. So there are many different operating system types at our disposal, which is available on the AWS platform for our usage. So we can use the Linux, which is from Amazon. It's typically a CentOS Linux there. All right, so this is version 2 here. So you have the Mac OS, which was launched very recently, and we have the Red Hat here. We have Ubuntu. We have Microsoft Windows. Then we have Debian. Yeah, and we have many versions of Windows here. We have Server 2019 with SQL Server 2017 standard pre-installed on it. And yes, we've got SUSE Linux here. So this is a bit of the, just a glimpse of all the images that we have here. When I mean image, it is the operating system image. I can see that's about 45 of them here. All right. However, there are many other operating systems, images of the operating systems, which you can find under the community AMIs, under the AWS marketplace also. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we are going to be testing on a Linux AMI. Alright, so I'm going to be selecting the 64-bit x86 Amazon Linux 2 AMI with a root device type which is EBS and virtualization type is HVM. I'm going to select that as the first step. So the second step is choosing the instance type. So the instance type is the amount of system resources that you are going to get with the choice of your instance. Alright, so there are many instance types, there are many families of instance types, many generations of instance types based on the total number of vCPUs, the total amount of memory, the total amount of storage you get, and the network performance. So based on the vCPU, memory, the storage instance, network performance. So these are the 4 key parameters, and based on which all the instance families are classified, and those classifications we have done it in a different module altogether. Alright, so for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to go with the free tier eligible one, which is a T2 micro instance type, and it's got 1 vCPU and 1 GB of memory on it, and the network performance is going to be low to moderate. However, it has got the IPv6 support built into it. Alright, so I have checked the box here. Alright, so the next step is for me to go ahead and configure the instance details. So within the configuration of the instance details, if I want to go and create multiple instances, here I have the option to do that. I have my purchasing options. So let's say if I want to have the machine deployed in a more custom VPC, or if I want to change the availability zone, you can see all the availability zones here. But if you're selecting no preference, it's going to create the instance in one of the availability zones by itself. We'll see that. For now, let's leave it at the default one. We are not going to change this, and auto assign public IP, we will keep it as enabled because we definitely need access to the machine from the outside world. Then another option that we need to see here is the shutdown behavior. Alright, so when you select the stop, it just stops the machine, it doesn't terminate. But however, if you want your machine to be terminated when you stop the machine, we can change that here. But for the demonstration, I'm not going to be changing all this. I'm just going to leave all the parameters as default. We will look into them later one by one. Alright, and the next step 4, is to add storage. Alright, so we have a few variety of options here. General purpose SSD, GP3, GP2, then provisioned IOPS SSD, provisioned IOPS SSD, IO2, and magnetic standard. The magnetic standard means the hard disk drives here. All of them are classified based on the IOPS, the throughput. Alright, so just watch it here. General purpose SSD GP2 has minimum of 3 IOPS per GB. However, you will get a minimum of 100 IOPS, burstable up to 3000 IOPS. Let's say even if your total size is only 8 GB of volume, you still get 3000. You get a minimum of 100 IOPS, but if there is a demand on the IOPS, it can go up to 3000. If I'm going to be changing this to GP3, I'm getting you can get provision up to 50 IOPS per GB, alright, but however here with the GP3, it is showing 3000, which means that we should be getting up to 3000 IOPS, alright. So this is, I've discussed about this more in detail in another topic about the EBS volumes. Let's look into that. When we are looking into that, we'll be talking about it in detail, but for now, it's showing 3000 IOPS, and you get a defined throughput of 125 MB per second. If you see in the previous one, GP2, you don't see that here. It says not applicable. However, with the GP3, you get the option. You get a guaranteed throughput of 125 MB per second. And provisioned IOPS, again, you don't have the throughput defined here. And your IOPS, you get a guaranteed IOPS of 400. All right. yeah, so more detail we have it in another topic. And let's check out the provisioned IOPS SS2. You get up to IOPS 8,000 IOPS there, and you don't have the throughput defined here. And with the magnetic, you do not have the IOPS or the throughput defined here. You don't get, AWS does not guarantee you the number of IOPS or the throughput there. All right. So for the purpose of this demonstration, we will leave it at general purpose SSD2. Delete on termination. This is very important to notice this. If I am unchecking this, then what happens is the hard disk will remain there after the machine has been terminated, and the data is still available to you. Well, yes, from a operational perspective, it is important that we always retain the data. However, the disk that is going to be sitting there, this 8 GB of data sitting there, is going to be costing you. All right. So please be careful about this, and please be mindful when you are going to uncheck this deletion on termination. Let me leave it like this, and let's see what happens towards the end of this session. All right. Next, let me go to add tags. All right. So let me call this as test instance, and I'll call it as server instance 1. All right. So let me next go to configure the security group, and the security group is a firewall. All right. So it is the firewall which is going to allow or disallow. So by default, security group only gives you the option to allow the incoming connections. You don't have the capability to disallow connections or to deny connections. That is available also, but we will see that in a different that's available under a different solution offering, but it is available there. We will check it out later. All right. And let's see here, it is creating a new security group. All right. And within this new security group, since this is a Linux machine, it is automatically allowing the SSH to be the default port open for us to access the machine. All right. So if I don't want this also, I can remove it, but we need to access the machine from outside, so I'll leave it there. And the protocol is TCP, port range is 22. So the source is is where the connections are going to be originating from, or it is what we are defining here is all right. So I can allow the connections to come from anywhere in the world. Then it's 0,0,0,0/0. Let's say I don't want to do that, or I want to allow the connections to this machine only from a specific IP address. Yes, I can still do that, or I can just say my IP. It's already taken my IP automatically here, and it will allow connections only from my IP. But for now, let's keep it as anywhere. All right. Either I can choose anywhere. If I choose anywhere, it is going to 0,0,0,0. I'll make it as custom, and I'll put it as 0,0,0,0/0. All right. So you get a warning here which says you are allowing all the IP address access to an instance, and this is going to pretty much be a security issue, because you're opening up your instance to the world, to the entire world, and so they do not recommend that. However, yes, AWS does not recommend that. However, when we are going to be running applications that is going to be accepting connections from all around the world, we will definitely have to have the source come from anywhere in the world. And I can rename this security group. I'm going to call it as SSH ESG, SSH security group. All right. I'll just leave the description as it is. I'm not going to change this. If I want to add another rule, I can still do that. All right. So let me say if I want to add a ping to the machine. By default, pings to the AWS instances are blocked. You cannot ping the AWS instances from anywhere in the world. All right. Unless you open it. So if I want to allow that, I can go and select all ICMP, and I'm going to allow from ICMP version 4. And it's going to allow on any port, and the source also I can select from 0,0,0,0. 00/0. And if I want to add any other port, let's say if I want to, and let's say if I'm going to, run a database instance on this machine, so I can go and open the, you have the MySQL Aurora port here, you have the PostgreSQL, you have the Oracle. So you want to open all those ports, you can do that. Or if you're running a web server, you can go and open the HTTP or HTTPS here, HTTP here. If you're running a mail server, then probably you need to open up your POP3 and IMAP. So pretty much whatever port you want to allow access through to your applications, you're going to be setting up in the security group. Remember, this is the firewall. All right. So let me remove this. I'm going to be using this one. Let's check out this one later. All right. Next is the review and launch. Let me click on review and launch now. All right. So the AMI details, I'm using the Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Root device type is EBS. Virtualization type is HVM. All right. Instance type is T2 micro. It's got one vCPU, one memory. Most importantly, the security groups, I have open SSH, and I'm going to allow pings from outside the world. And the storage is 8 GB volume, and I'm using GP2 volume type there. Yes, let me go ahead and click on launch now. So the moment I click on launch, I'm going to be asked to create a new key pair, or if I already have a key pair, I can use that as well. All right. So what is this key pair? All right. So think of the key pair like a lock and a key. All right. So the lock is the lock is sitting on your server, and the key is the one that you're going to be downloading now. All right. So I'm going to create a new key pair, and I'll call this AWS KP, and today is the 3rd of March. So I'll use it as 030322. All right, just for the remembrance sake, I can do that. Or you, however, your own your organization has its own method of naming the key pairs. But the key pair is one of the very key components, and if you lose it, you lose access to the instance. So please be very mindful of this and keep your PEM files saved in a very safe repository. All right. Okay, so I'm going to create a new key pair. I'm going to call it as AWS KP1-030322. All right. And I'm going to click on download key pair. So when I'm going to click on download key pair, there is going to be a PEM file which is downloaded for me. Remember, this is a PEM file. Okay. All right. Let me go and click on launch instance now. Excellent. Now the instance is started to launch, and it is showing me that the instances are now launching. And let's go here and refresh here. Remember, you have a refresh button here, and please do remember to refresh your page quite frequently, because some of the times you may have a stale page in front of you while the request has already been completed. So there is always a refresh button here. Please do see this refresh button here. All right. Okay. Now let's look at the options which has come up here. So now the instance is coming up. So I have the option to go and call my rename my instance here. I'll call it as test instance 1, and let me save it. So I have my instance ID here. So, and all the information regarding your instance is also displayed in a more elaborate way down below here. All right. So you have the option to pull and push this down. You can pull up or push down this part of it, and you see here the instance ID is there. It is showing me the instance state is currently running. The instance type, it is still initializing for the status check. All right. And you see here it has taken up US East 1C automatically. All right. What we selected was, we said no preference, and it has selected US East 1C automatically by itself. There is a DNS address which is associated for this particular instance. You can see that here. The next one is the public IPv4 address. We have an address which is assigned to the instance 54.209.127.57. Remember, this is a ephemeral address, meaning that the moment you stop the machine, it's not that you terminate, you don't have to terminate, you just stop the machine, and this IP address will be released from this instance. And when you reboot and when your machine is coming back online, the chances of having the same IP address assigned to this machine is not guaranteed. All right, so you cannot say, okay, I'm going to stop and start this machine and I'm going to be getting the same IP address. So if you are going to have your applications deployed on instances which rely on the public IP addresses, then please make sure you don't depend upon the ephemeral IP address. For that purpose, you have what is called as an elastic IP. So AWS allows you to lease an IP address, and you can go and assign that to your machine. All right, so we are going to be seeing that in a different module, but for now, please remember, this is the ephemeral address that is getting assigned. All right, and we see that the security group name is SSHSG. The key pair associated with that is here, and you can see the launch time of this machine. So we get a bit of an information here. More elaborate information is down here. All right, so the details, the instance ID, and also watch this. You have this option to copy the data, now and at many places, because why we will need this information to be called at many other places. You will want, let's say I want to go and connect to the machine, so I can just simply copy on this. All right, always try to follow this copy link rather than going and copying it like this, because this can cause a lot of errors. So that's the reason this copy link is there. Always use this copy link. So I do not have an IPv6 address assigned to the machine. This is the private IP address. It's using the 172.31 class B private address there. Then it's showing me the platform, the AMI ID, and the key pair name, the owner. All right, so the owner is the account ID here. All right, then virtualization type, number of vCPUs. So then into the security, it is showing me which security group is assigned to this machine. What are the allowed ports? What are the ports which are allowed? Which ports are allowed into the operating system? All right. Just to give a quick heads up here, we were talking about the this is allowing the incoming IP addresses. All right, so security group, it is pretty much allow only. You don't have the deny option. All right, remember that, please. All right, we have that under the VPC, not now. All right, then let's go into the networking. Once again, you have the public IPv4 address, then your VPC ID, your subnet ID. All right, so we'll be talking about them very much in detail later. All right, we don't have any elastic IPs assigned to this machine. The storage, the root device name is XVDA. So do not go for this, just do not take this right away as the value, because, log on to the machine to check the root device name actually. And we see that there is one volume which is attached of size 8 GB. Remember, we have deletion on termination was, unchecked. So this is not going to be deleted on termination. Your data is going to be there only. So please be mindful of that. All right, so those are all the key factors which we have seen there. And we have, let's say, if you have all the work done on your instance and you no longer need the instance, you have the option to stop it and keep it, or terminate it, or let's say if you want to reboot your instance, you have the options here. Remember, stop instance, when you're going to be stopping the instance, all right, you will still be charged for the volume that is attached to this machine. All right, and when I'm going to be terminating the instance, all right, then the instance is completely gone and you will not be charged for the instance. However, if your volume is still going to be sitting there, you will still be charged for it. So please be mindful of that. All right. So let me go ahead and now let's see what happens if I'm going to be stopping the instance. All right. I'm just going to hit on stop the instance. So to confirm that you want to stop the instance, choose the stop button below. Going to stop the instance now. Successfully stopped. All right. Let's just watch it there. Just give it a few seconds. Let's see what is happening to all of them. Still going down. Still stopping. Alright, so you can see that the public IPv4 address is gone. Alright, so the chances of the same address being assigned to this instance once you bring it back online is very less. So we already discussed about this, so please be mindful of that. And let me go ahead and terminate the instance. Remember, I have one volume which is associated with this instance. Alright, so if I can go to the volumes, you can see within this dashboard on your left, you see volumes under the Elastic Block Store, and you go and look here, you can see the volume ID here, and you can see that it is showing in use, and it is attached to the instance here. Okay, volume state is okay. We'll go into the EBS in detail later. Alright, so let me go. Remember, we have disabled the delete on termination, right? So let me go and terminate the instance now. Alright, so let me click on terminate. Let's see what is happening. Successfully terminated. Alright, showing shutting down completely. And you need to remember that once we have terminated the instance also, this information will be visible on your screen for quite a while. Alright, so probably for the next couple of hours you will still be seeing the terminated instances on your screen before it is completely removed off your dashboard. Now you go to the volumes, alright, to the volumes tab, and you can see here the volume will still be living there. You can see that the volume ID is still there. However, what has happened is it is not attached to any instance and it is available there for us. So let's say if we want to go and retrieve the data, we have the option to retrieve the data. That task is done in a different module. We will look into that later. So we still have the volume there, which means that your instance is deleted, but you are still going to be charged for the volume. Alright, so please be mindful of that and do delete the volume if you no longer need that. Okay, so I am now completely clear. My volume is gone. My instance which I spun up is also gone. And I have one key pair which was associated with that, and I had one security group created. I can see that also. Previously I had two security groups, and I can see now it's become 3. I had 2 key pairs and now it's become 3. I can still see one instance here. Alright, so that is pretty much the terminated one. We go back to the dashboard. Okay, but the number of running instances has come down to 0. Alright. Yes, so thank you very much for your time, and let's see in the next demonstration.